Hello, thankful Thursday. Did you miss me? It's been, about a month since our last Facebook Live. Well, I didn't come by myself this week. I have someone with me. Pastor Matthew Meadows is with me tonight.
Hello there. Hello there.
Yes, so please click share to invite others. And also, we're going to be talking about, is your marriage stressed? That is our topic for tonight. So click to invite others to join us. Also, like us on Facebook and Instagram because you don't want to miss great content and events that we share with our community. Good evening again. I am Mieko Paige with Live the Life, and we help to strengthen marriages and families. And I have with me this evening my colleague, but more importantly, my friend, Matthew Meadows. He has been a pastor for over 33 years and a marriage and family counselor for over 30 years. He has been married to his bride, as he endearingly calls her, for how long, Pastor Matthew?
Well, in January, it'll be 30 years in January.
Woo-hoo! 3 decades. That is
right.
awesome. That is awesome.
That's right.
And so he lives what he preaches and teaches as it relates to marriage and relationships. And that's one of the things that I value about him and our friendship. So we want to help you identify if your marriage is stressed, or you may discover that someone you know or love has a marriage that is stressed. So I want you to think about the smoke detectors in your house, all right? They were installed to let you know that there is smoke. Because usually when there's smoke, there's fire, right? And if fire goes unchecked, it could burn your house to the ground. You could literally lose most of your possessions. Right. So let's look at that and apply that to marriage. Stressed marriages produce smoke, no doubt about it. And the smoke is behavior that, if goes unchecked or you don't address it, it could destroy your marriage, right?
Oh, absolutely. I find many times that with couples that I've seen, they knew something was going on for years, but neither one of them spoke up, neither one of them said anything, and neither one of them did anything about it. And they waited to got to the point to where, in your analogy, the house was burning down and the walls were caving in around them and they were headed for divorce before they decided to ever try to get any help, any counseling, any outside help.
Right. It makes it really hard. Well, let's first talk about, what if one spouse is satisfied in the relationship and the other one is not? So you have one spouse that smells the smoke, and the other one, they smell it, but they're not going to acknowledge it.
Oh, absolutely. I tell you, Mieko, many times that folks have shown up, and I'll ask a couple as kind of an opening dialogue. Tell me what, on a scale of 1 to 10, and I'll give them a couple of sticky notes. On a scale of 1 to 10, write a 10 being this marriage is perfect and we don't need any help. A 1, man, this is this thing, we need every kind of help you can offer and plus some.
Right.
And write it down. And inevitably, I'll have a man, for example, not always men, but a lot of times a man will write an 8 or a 9, and the wife will write a 3 or a 4, and they'll hand me the piece of paper. And then once we talk for a while, I'll open the paper up and show them the numbers, and they're both shocked. The wife can't believe that the husband is that, he's gotten used to things that are so abnormal that now have become normal, and he thinks things are fine because they haven't fought recently. They have a little bit of money, and they've had sex recently, so he's thinking everything's great.
And listen, so part of what I'm hearing and what you said they haven't fought lately. So the absence of fighting or the absence of conflict doesn't necessarily mean the presence of peace and harmony or health.
Oh, that is so correct, Mieko. That is so right.
Okay.
I've had couples that I've met at retreats, and they'll tell me, we haven't had a fight in 13 years. And I'll look at them and go, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. Because if you're like train tracks and you live heading the same direction, but you never cross, well, there's never going to be any friction. There's never going to be a fight over.
That's
And so
good.
one's got his life and she's got her life, and they do their own thing and they just move on like roommates or something.
Yes. Versus, listen, there's going to be conflict. Every healthy relationship has conflict, but it's how
Absolutely.
do we address the conflict? What do we do with the conflict?
Well,
Okay.
I tell you, the way that a couple or a friend or whoever, a company, you name it, the way any organization or set of relationships handles conflict directly determines how deep and how committed that relationship is. In other words, the ones that handle conflict well, that's where iron sharpens iron, and they get closer. I mean,
Right.
they form a bond that would last, I mean, for a lifetime. And that's true for marriages, that's true for friendships, partnerships, whatever it may be.
Okay.
But those that don't do conflict well, or run from it, or ignore it, or hope it'll go away, or bury their head in the sand or whatever, those are the relationships that suffer the most.
Okay. So what are the signs of a distressed couple? What questions would I need to be asking myself to determine if my marriage is susceptible to divorce? If there is smoke that I need to investigate the source of.
Right. Well, there's several of them. One of them I would say is selfish communication. When the couple talks at each other rather than with each other. And what they'll do is they'll form a habit of it's almost like instruction, or like a mother talking to the son, or the dad, doesn't say much until he gets angry and then everybody gets away or whatever, but they talk at each other and not with each other. That's selfish communication. Huge indicator. Huge. That when your smoke alarm ought to be going ding 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 ding. I mean, that's a big deal. That's
right,
a really
right.
okay. Another one that a lot of people may be surprised when I say this is a battle for control. And what I mean by that is, in the course of the way they deal with one another, one has to win and one's got to lose. And in reality, to have a strong marriage, there needs to be an us. And that us, it takes two to make an us, but it only takes one to kill an us. So with that, what you have to realize there is that if you're looking at it like one's going to win and one's going to lose, well, that's two different teams. Us is only a one team. And that us but us also requires both of them to be a great deal of emotional maturity by both of them.
I think that could really be challenging for certain personality types. For example, like mine, I like control. And for a long time, I didn't realize I like control, but I do like control. And I don't like being wrong. So here it is. I like control. I don't like being wrong. Oh my gosh. And so there was an awareness that, first of all, I had to have, and then a level of maturity to your point, identify Chris and I are on the same team. We are an us. And that if I don't, identify and work on my need to have control, that's going to negatively impact my marriage.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And what you're talking about right there, Mieko, is recognition that leads to regulation. You recognize things about yourself and about your spouse, both, and then you regulate it in a way that honors your spouse, but also protects the us and protects you.
Yes. While also giving myself a voice. I'm not saying, I don't lose, who I am, but I'm giving myself a voice, but in a way, to your point, that is honoring and respectful.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Another major indicator is when the couples, when they ignore their partner's boundaries.
Oh, are you saying that married people still should have boundaries?
Absolutely. Absolutely, they should. And, a lot of folks will think, well, if you're married, you're supposed to share everything and tell everything and so forth. And I tell couples all the time, now, God, one of the greatest things he did is he protected us because we can't read each other's mind. We think we can, but we can't. But boy, imagine if we could actually read each other's mind and the thoughts that you may have had at one point or another about your spouse. Oh, yeah, you would want that share.
No, people wouldn't be married very long at all.
Let's
just say that.
That's right. But when we ignore the partner's boundaries, one of the ways that you can tell that is that I will have the tendency, or one person will have the tendency to give to the other one what they want, not what the partner needs. So if Gina may need me my wife may need me to support her, or she may need some attention, but instead I give her affection because affection would be what I want. That's not what she needs.
Because
so
we generally
partner's boundaries when you do that.
Are you saying we tend to love people in the way in which we receive love, and so that can inhibit us from loving our mates in a way that is meaningful to them?
Yes. Because
Okay.
what happens in that is then when I do that, I give her hugs and kisses, or I give her what's valuable to me, and then she rejects it. Well, then
Mm,
I take that as complete personal rejection.
yeah.
And I get all upset and mad and frustrated. And she's just saying, no, that's not what I needed right now. That not that she doesn't need it ever, but
Right.
that's just no, not right now.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm not
All right.
seeing it that way because I didn't pay attention to her boundaries.
Oh, that's good. All right.
Yep.
So let's do one more real quick. Just
All
give us
right.
one more.
Well, I had several, but we'll do this one. One is another one we'll do is a lack of trust. A lack of trust.
Okay.
Now, what I mean by that is this: a lot of times in relationships, we think a lack of trust. Oh, well, that's because one of them had cheated or one of them did, whatever. No, not always. A lot of times, a lack of trust is because I don't know if you're a safe person for me to tell things. I don't know what you're going to bring up in front of my mother or in front of our friends.
Yeah.
And so I start withholding things from my spouse.
Mm,
And a lot of times, this is women, they withhold it. They'll tell their girlfriends things they won't even tell their husband.
yeah.
And from there, what ends up happening is it's all about safety, and they have no security. And they talk about, well, I feel so insecure in my marriage. I feel so, I just don't know what's going on. They need security, but you've got to give up some safety
Oh,
in order
wow.
to get security.
So that would be a barrier to bonding. That would
Oh,
be a
yes.
barrier to intimacy.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
that safety thing is all about control because I've got control.
Yeah.
But security requires two people. Safety only requires one person.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the security piece, I really need Gina to be on my team. I really need to share what I'm thinking and feeling with her. I really need, whatever I really need.
Yes.
But I'm afraid to do it because fear is driving me to safety. Where if I'm walking in faith and I'm like, okay, all right, I can trust her, or I can tell her about this, and I can tell her, look, I don't want you sharing this with anybody now. This is between us. That's security. And there's a big difference in the two.
Right. Well, what do I do if my spouse will not change or put forth the effort?
Whew. Boy, that's a really good question.
I know that, and that's a loaded question, but we're gonna.
Oh, it is. It is. Well, if we're talking about you, because it's kind of two questions. If we're talking about you, the one who's listening to this broadcast, then I would say from there that this is the calling, this is the bell ringing, this is the alarm going off saying you need to initiate some change and you need to do something about what's going on in your marriage. Now, if we're talking about
one spouse can positively impact the marriage.
Oh, absolutely they can.
Yeah.
Sure. And that one person can be a catalyst to introduce change.
Yeah.
The whole relationship, and hopefully the other spouse will get on board and follow along.
Okay.
Now, if you're talking about the other spouse, though, if I'm trying to get my wife to do some things different or whatever, one of the first things I got to do, and because of our background and because of, who we are with each other, and you've already called me Pastor Matthew several times, we're going to pray. We're going to pray. Yeah. Because there's a lot of times that prayer will do more than yelping, than yelling, than talking over, drilling in the point, buying books and handing off to the other one, handing them articles.
Highlighting the chapters.
Yeah, I know. I hear you, girl. I hear you. In that prayer, but then from there, and prayer may sound like it's passive, but it's not. It's very active. And then from there, at some point, pray for the opportunity to suggest, like doing a marriage tune-up, something that you would do like with us at Live the Life.
Yeah.
Suggest where you take a little survey online together and see how you grade or rate the marriage together. Just little things that can be conversation starters, so that hopefully the other spouse will realize, wow, and they will want to give to their spouse. They want to give them what they need, even though it may be a little bit frightening to the other spouse and say, oh, I don't know if I want to do this or not. Right. But realizing that the relationship is more important than my feelings at that time.
So, Pastor Matthew, what if I smell smoke in my marriage because there's a fire? The $1 million question is, how do I put out the fire? How do I fix it? Because I'm a fixer. How do I fix it?
Yep. Well, well, Mieko, you don't fix a marriage, you fix a car. The
Fair.
marriage, a marriage is a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process. This didn't happen overnight. It won't get fixed overnight. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. If I said to you, hey, I want you to go grow me some tomatoes.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, and I want those tomatoes in 3 days.
Huh, not happening.
Not going to happen. No, ma'am. I don't care if you buy the thing at Lowe's, it's already 2 feet tall. The odds of having a red tomato in 3 days is probably slim to none.
Right.
Well, the same holds true when it comes to your relationship and marriage. We will get so to the point where we're sick of smelling the smoke, we're sick of hearing the alarms, and we're frustrated and aggravated, and we want something done, we want it done now.
Right.
Well, now is just a beginning process of walking this out. And that's why I say you don't fix marriages, you fix cars, but the marriage is a process. Now, you can still use tools in your marriage. You can use tools when you go to raise your tomatoes.
Right.
But even with the tools, and even if you do some things differently, that doesn't guarantee that it's going to get fixed, because both of you have to be motivated, both of you have to want to do it, and both of you have to want to change.
You know, there is a rhythm in a relationship, and couples have established patterns, and many times those patterns aren't healthy patterns that promote health in the relationship. So it does take time to create new healthy patterns. That's really good. And our Hope Weekend is a phenomenal resource in helping couples to be able to do that. We have over an 80% success rate with helping couples restore hope long term, even with couples that have already started divorce proceedings. That is so exciting.
I know, and it is so cool.
It is. And so, Pastor Matthew, you specifically work with those couples because you facilitate our Hope Weekend.
Yes, ma'am, that's right. I
So
do.
we have seen God do some amazing things in the hearts of couples. Just one really quick story. There was a couple that was meeting with a facilitator of ours for Hope Weekend, and the wife was standing for the marriage, and the husband, you might even, you know this couple, they're one of our testimonies, Sandra and her husband, his name is escaping me, Tommy and Sandra.
Oh, yes.
And so the facilitator asked, Tommy, if out of 100%, what percentage are you in the marriage? And he said 1%. And that 1% was for his children.
Yep.
So it's like, whoa. And, and so then the facilitator said, okay, well then, will you give 100% of your 1% over the next 3 days? And he agreed. And so really quickly, tell them the outcome of Tommy and Sandra's story, Pastor Matthew.
So what happened out of that 100% of his 1% into the second day of that 3-day adventure? And literally right after midday, or after lunch, as I recall, right before lunch, he broke, and he literally like a dam that opened up, and he began telling his bride all that was going on and all that had been going on, and that there were all these things and all this horrible decisions and choices he'd been making that were so detrimental to the relationship, and she had no idea anything was happening, no idea about the affairs, no idea about any of the things. She had no idea about anything, and as the result of that weekend, and then weeks and weeks and weeks and months and much time, today they're more in love with one another and more connected with one another than ever before. And they realized just how much they were missing, because there was all these things about the marriage that they didn't know that they were missing.
Yes, and they help coach through our Hope Weekends. They've been facilitated, and so they've paid it forward. They have helped other couples. So just know that there is hope, even if you're down to 0.5%.
That's right.
The Holy Spirit can work with that, Right. And so we just ask that. Listen, our next Hope Weekend is July the 24th through the 26th. We'll have the information in the Facebook Live link along with a registration link. We would love to hear from you, and we would be honored to walk with you through the process of healing your marital relationship. Also, our contact information is in Facebook. Hey, I want to hear from you. Call me. email me. Let's have a conversation. Lastly, I am so excited to share that Pastor Matthew and I, we have conversations like this on a new platform called Marriage Mondays. It's a new radio program, and it's going to be on Pure Radio, 103.7 FM and 1320 AM on Mondays at 9:30. So please tune in to hear us chat more about marriage and relationship. We'll also post it on our Facebook page. Thank you, Pastor Matthew, for joining me tonight and us.
My pleasure, Mieko. Yeah, love it like always. Good to see you again.
And listen, join us next Thursday for part 2, entitled You're a First Responder Too, where we will help you help couples that you know and love. Okay? Until next time, love well and be safe.